Hi, everybody. Hello, and welcome back, all my friends on the internet, and welcome any new listeners. I am your host, Luke Dick, and welcome to the Reddit Asks Us podcast. Okay, everybody. Thank you again to all my new listeners who have been listening to the show and just, creeping in over the past couple weeks. We're getting new listeners every week, so I want to give a big shout out to you guys who are coming in and listening to the show for the first time. I hope you are enjoying the episodes and are binging all the content because it's been going on for quite some time now, and I've been having so much fun doing this, and it's been great to see so many new people tuning into the show. I really appreciate everybody who listens and everybody who tunes into the show. It's just so. It's fun. You guys make me want to keep going because I know you guys enjoy the content, and yeah, it's great. So before we head into the today's episode, if you're watching on YouTube or watching or listening on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts, make sure to leave us a rating and also leave us a review. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Reddit Asks Us Podcast, where there are clips of the show that you can watch. I'm thinking about updating the Instagram with just audio clips, but I've just been quite busy, starting another semester. I've got my other podcast that I do. If you guys want to check that out, if you're into basketball and you're a fan of the Toronto Raptors, check out the Rap Chat podcast, where I sit down with my friends Sam and Elias, and we talk about all things Raptors related, Toronto Raptors related when it comes to the podcast. All right, so without further ado, let's head right into it, guys. This episode today is, what is the current local controversy in your small town? Now, I apologize, everybody, if I might seem a little bit tired. I am a little bit tired. I'm trying to keep the enthusiasm there. I'm trying to make sure that we're still having fun here. I'm a little bit exhausted if I'm gonna be totally honest. I've had just a very busy week. So, but a good week, guys, a great week actually, to be honest. Things have been going quite well. So, with that said, let us just dive right into it. And also, I just want to mention this. I grew up in a small town, and until I was about 11 years old, I grew up in a small town of about 1,200 people. So when you live in a small town like that, news travels very quickly, and everybody knows each other. Everyone knows each other in some way, shape, or form. So news spreads quickly, and things can become controversy quite rapidly, and there are definitely a lot of people who have things to say about it. So, jumping in, we've got a comment. The first comment here comes from Raven_1313. While fleeing another hit and run and possible DUI, some dude tried to go full speed directly through the middle of our town square. The problem with that is that we have a big historic fountain there. Traffic is usually supposed to swerve around the fountain. He did not. This dude in a white SUV rams into our fountain and smashes into the center pillar. Oh my goodness. Thankfully, the fountain was off for the winter. That's good. So there was less damage, but they still have no clue how much money it's going to take to fix all this mess. The car was removed, but the fountain is still wrapped up in a tarp a month later. There's security cam footage of the ramp, and it's all anyone can talk about for a few weeks. And the thing is in small towns like this, there's really not a lot of income that's made. Other than taxes. But these types of towns don't get a lot of tourism. There's not a lot of money that's being created within the town outside of tourism. So fixing something like this, I could see how towns might even just think it's cheaper to just bulldoze the whole area and fill it all in, because it could be cheaper to do that than it would be to actually get another fountain, and that's very unfortunate. And another very common theme that I'm sure if you grew up in a small town or know anything about small towns, a very common theme are DUIs. There are a lot of people out there who get DUIs in small towns, but I figure it's because there's there's just not a whole lot to do, you know? I mean, not that I would ever get drunk and drive, but I do know lots of people who did and do, for that matter, drink and drive, and it's really a horrible thing because a lot of people get hurt in that process, and I've known people in my life who've gotten killed that way, or have killed people because of that, and it's just it just keeps happening year after year after year, and it's such a difficult problem to solve. It really is, because a lot of kids who grow up in small towns, not everybody's going to leave the town, right? That's just common. Especially people whose families have been there for a while. People sometimes will maybe go away for something and then come back to the town, like get some sort of education or formal training in something. But in a small town like that, I mean, I grew up with a lot of my friends' dads had DUIs from back in the day, because they got themselves up to all sorts of mischiefs while they were young. So it's sadly a very common thing that happens in small towns. So this next one comes from Axel0812. A guy wanted to bury his parents on their parents' slightly rural, totally out of the way, virtually no neighbor's property, but the village said, no way. We don't do that here. We're classy. So he went to the state for permission to build a funeral home / crematorium instead. And he built a giant mausoleum with both of their caskets right on the corner of the property where everyone and their grandma can see it when they drive by. And he has zero plans to actually turn this into a functioning business. It's about halfway done, no landscaping and construction vehicles parked all over the place. Gotta hand it to him. And then Willie Peace 666 replies, "What a genius. Hats off." I mean, can't you bury your parents wherever you want? My dad has this, of course it's a fantasy because it's never going to happen, but he's got this idea in his head that I don't know where this comes from or why he would ever want to do this, but he's got this sort of idea in his head where he's like, I just want you guys to don't cremate me, just bury my body in the backyard and let me naturally decompose, because he says it's the most economical way on earth to be able to bury somebody, because you just decompose naturally. I understand the science behind it, but I feel like that's not very dignified. It's weird. But my dad's a weird guy, and he would definitely agree with that. So this next one we've got from Change Winter 6643. Change winter, yes, please. Change winter to summer, please. I'm done with winter. Ugh. Growing up in Canada, your whole life, at least I don't know exactly where everybody's grown up. Maybe you have a different perspective on this, but I gotta say, growing up in Canada, I fucking hate the cold, man. I don't like it at all. I mean, I like to ski. I like snow sports. Snowmobiling can be fun. But, especially where I grew up, there's a lot of extended periods of time where it's for all my American listeners, I don't know what this is in Fahrenheit, but I think once it gets below zero, they get actually similar. But -30, -40 for extended periods of time. I mean, I was just back in Saskatchewan because I live in Halifax now, but I was just back in Saskatchewan for Christmas break, and it was basically -40 the entire time I was there. There was one day where it was -10, and then the next day it was -40 again. And I cannot say I ever really got used to it, to be honest. It's one of those things that it's so bitterly cold, you are just not about it. But this one comes from Change Winter 6643. A couple promised a lot of cakes and fancy breads at the local festival and didn't deliver. Everyone's mad at them for the last 2 weeks. Then this one has a reply from Randy Marsh Tegrity 69. I love this one. It's just enough for people to be collectively peeved at the couple for the broken promise, but not a big enough deal for it to really warrant any action. It's the perfect situation of everybody knows about it, and also everyone probably has to shrug it off within a couple minutes of knowing, because yeah, like what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? I mean, it is one of those things where you're just like, it's a personal big deal, but there's not like a whole lot of active action that can actually be taken. So the next one comes from B. All right, so this one comes from the BL Giant or BI Giant, and this one's a little bit of a long story, guys. So, but it's worth it. It's rather interesting. All right, so nothing current, but I have one from 5 years ago. So we had a guy who was quite libertarian. He owned a gun store in town and pretty much kept to himself. He will be known as Lib Guy. The problem started when he decided to have chickens for his own eggs, but lived within the city proper, which had a rule against farm animals that live within the city. This is a rural farming area I live in. One of the city council members, he shall be known as A-Hole, discovered he had chickens a few weeks after he got them, and the city sent him a letter telling him he had to get rid of them. Well, he was not going down without a fight. So he spent some time looking into things and discovered A-Hole, who had reported him for living within the city with chickens, also had chickens. Well, this of course caused a bit of a scandal. The city ended up claiming there was a grandfather clause for anyone who had livestock within the city prior to the rule change 17 years ago. The problem with that was that the clause applied to the A-Hole's father, not the A-Hole who lived at the same address. Needless to say, the war was on. A couple of weeks go by, and the town cops are messing with Lib Guy over petty shit. Lib Guy somehow gets a recording of A-Hole calling the police and lying to them about what Lib Guy was doing. Police now want to charge Lib Guy for some absurd, ridiculous recording law that doesn't apply, since it was someone with the police department who gave him the tape, not that he stole it. This gets blown up to the point where the bigger cities' news crews are now showing up to the city council meetings that are being called to address this issue. These meetings are getting absolutely absurdly blown out of proportion. In all honesty, somewhat slimy, and I've never heard this word, jicky, and Americans and their special geographical lingo. I mean, everybody's got that. And how the city is handling it. Lib Guy subpoenas the city council, emails to show that there was a concerted effort to fuck with him and cover for the A-Hole. Well, in the course of getting the emails, it was discovered that there was a sexting issue going on between 3 of the city council members. LMAO. Believe me when I say that this did not involve people that I would consider sexy. All 3, 2 women and 1 man, were married, 200 pounds plus, and in their 50s. I mean, emails about double dildos, pegging, swinging, etc. It was hilarious. Keep in mind, folks, this is all public information. Oh my god. In the end, the Lib Guy got the last laugh. He lost his chickens, but found a loophole where he could actually own llamas in the city, since they were not considered livestock. So he put up a fence all around his yard, just tall enough so the llamas could not get out by jumping. People would actually go by them with their dogs and pet the llamas. The problem was that the llamas' shit smelled like cows, and it stinks in such a small enclosure. This went on for about a year until he sold the house and moved. It stunk for at least a block around his property, and he lived right behind the town's grocery store. Oh, come on, man. All that for some... putting all the suffering on other folks just to have the last laugh. I don't really mess with that. 2 of the city council members involved got divorced over the sexting issue, and the 3rd one sold her bar because of it. This was the infamous chicken scandal that plagued my town of 4,000 people for 3 years. What a clusterfuck of a story. Holy crap. So, in the process of a city council member messing with a guy who owned a gun store, in the process of this, emails were released because they subpoenaed emails, and they were released and then these emails showed sexting between 3 of the city council members. ugh. Especially if you know these people, man. Like 4,000 people, that's still a town of people that you know. Like, oh my God. That must have been horrible. And everybody saw it. Everybody definitely saw it. There's no way people didn't see it. Oh God. Town of about, this one comes from Stick Shaker 73. Town of about 1,800. The girls' volleyball coach got a DUI. The school's principal went to pick her up from jail and was arrested for himself on a DUI. And somehow it got out that these two, both married, were having an affair. Oh, man. All the little tiny things that you learn about people who live in small towns. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, there is not much to do in a small town. Does that mean that you should cheat on your wife? No, absolutely not. But does it mean that people will cheat on their wives? Yes, it does. So, I just got this hunch that, sometimes people who live in small towns they have this ambition for trying to find something to do, especially a lot of people who live in small towns and don't necessarily have aspirations that are beyond those small towns. That's kind of where they live and where their whole social life is. So, it can get pretty crazy in small towns. Think about it, if you live in a giant city, it's not that hard to be able to, go out and make new friends, have a new friend group, kind of reinvent yourself, right? Whereas when you live in a small town, everyone knows everything and they will know everything forever. So, it gets those town legends, Of course, anyone who's grown up in a small town will know, like, oh, Jimmy's grandpa did this back in 1965. You know what I'm saying? Like that stuff still sticks around. I remember hearing stuff like that as a kid. I mean, you'll hear stuff like that in bigger cities too, but in bigger cities, there are more niches for you to be able to get yourself involved in, whereas in small towns, that's not really as much of an option. So next one comes from Creditive, at user Creditive. I love this. I love Reddit usernames that just kind of flow off the tongue. Creditive. Like, it just sounds like it's just fun to say. Not currently, but it needs to be documented in history. The serial cat napper. A couple lost their cat, so they were knocking door to door in our town and came across their cat crying in a random home's front window. They call the police, who arrive and find 50 plus missing cats, along with a fucking graveyard of cats in the garden. Oh my God. That's just horrible. Some that had been missing for up to 7 years. It was culminated in the cat napper, a 50-plus-year-old woman stuffing as many cats as she could in her car and going on a police chase through our little town. Wow. Oh, sorry. It culminated in the cat napper, a 50-plus-year-old woman stuffing as many cats as she could in a car and going on a police chase through our small town. Really? You're going to be that defensive over these cats? For real? So it turns out most of the cats were identified and taken home. A very small few went to rescue centers, tragically. And the cat napper is currently going under mental health treatment. You're like, what do you do? Like, sending somebody to jail for that doesn't even seem like it's that seems like it honestly is going to make the problem worse. Like, it doesn't seem like you should put somebody to, in jail for this sort of crime. But apparently, she just took home any cat she saw on a walk for the last 7 years. Wow. This all happened a couple of years back, but I had to tell the tale. Wow, isn't that just crazy? Some random older lady is just going around town every time she's on a walk. She just sees a cat, nabs it up, and just has a house full of other people's cats. That is ridiculous. That's got to be some sort of mental health thing. I'm glad that they put her in some mental health thing. To be honest, I really don't know how helpful that's going to be. It's probably going to be more helpful than prison. But, like, what the heck? Like, what? Okay. Let me tell you. I like cats, okay? I like cats. Do I like dogs? I like dogs too. But would I get a cat over a dog? I would probably get a cat over a dog. That's just me. I don't have anything against dogs. I've been around dogs my whole life. I like dogs. And I just would prefer a cat. That's just me, okay? And I like cats. However, if you own, as a single person, more than like 2 or 3 cats, something's weird, bro. What do you need all those cats for? I don't understand. I don't know. People who have these cat obsessions, they've got like 7 or 8 cats. It's like, why, bro? Why? 1 cat is fine. 2 cats is all right. 3 cats is like, okay, like, all right, you got 3 cats. That's a lot of cats. 4 cats is like, okay, yo, why? What do you need these cats for? Really? You're that lonely? You're that lonely. I don't get the cat obsession. I don't get it. I just don't understand. Like I get why cats are cute. Cats are, cuddly. They've got that sort of loving energy. But it's like, bro, what do you need all these cats for? And the more cats you get, the more cats you're more likely to have that are just assholes. And honestly, it can be very difficult for cats to live together too. Cats can just, if you get cats that are okay with living together, then that's great. And I'm not saying it's every cat, but there are a decent amount of cats out there that do not play nice with other cats in your own house. And then it's like, okay, well, now you got these 2 cats and they're constantly fighting, or 4 cats or 5 cats or 6 cats or 7 cats that are fighting. And it's just like, oh man, moderation, guys, moderation. Do you need 7 cats? You don't need 7 cats. Okay. You need to get a life. Sorry, I didn't want that to sound mean, but come on, guys. Cats are awesome, but do you really need that many cats? If you have that much of an obsession with cats, I think there might be something a little different going on upstairs. But I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying those are the facts. Just kidding, guys, though. All fun and games, but not really. Okay, so this next one comes from RiskK2302. My country is the size of a small town. Interesting. I want to know where this person lives. One problem at the moment is that we have these things called roundels. They're kind of like roundabouts, but no one has right of way and there's no lanes. You just drive wherever you want, and people are getting super angry about it, even though nothing bad has happened since they opened them. I don't know how I feel about roundabouts and stuff like that. These sound much more stressful than a roundabout. I used to be kind of scared of roundabouts, but now they actually kind of make sense. But you have to make sure you're in the right lane. It's so easy to get into the wrong lane of a roundabout and then get honked at or something. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about roundabouts. So, but what are your guys' thoughts about roundabouts? Do you like them? Do you drive through them? Do you have lots of cats? I don't know. Good question, and I hope to know the answer someday. So this next one comes from that dude 8129. About 2 years ago, the mayor of this town that I live in got caught drunk driving his lawnmower down Main Street at around 2 a.m. This sounds so American. I'm so sorry, but this is just like, oh my goodness. At 2 a.m., about 6 weeks after being elected. I can't wrap my head around the fact that my mayor getting drunk and driving a lawnmower would become one of the most upvoted comments, but here we are. It's America, man. You can do, I guess, whatever you want, but to be honest, that kind of sounds fun. Those like driving lawnmowers, those like I don't even know what brand makes them, but my grandpa's got one, but it doesn't. Is that really that harmful? Can you drunk drive a riding lawnmower? Is that like okay? I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that are like, no, of course not. It's drinking and driving, and like, sure, I'm down to have that opinion, but like, they don't go that fast, do they? You shouldn't be drunk driving anything, but like, let's thought experiment, guys. Thought experiment. Let's get these things out in the open, all right? I don't know. I'm not trying to be this guy who's trying to promote drunk driving lawnmowers. I'm just saying that I could see how somebody might be inclined to do something like that, even though I would never do something like that. Because it's just so ridiculous. Yeah, definitely American. So this one comes from, and I'm sorry if you're not from America and you have that comment, but I don't know. I feel like if you're an outsider looking in, like I could just, there's very few places in the world where I could picture something like that happening, and America is one of them. And it's like the first one that comes to my mind on the list. America's all about freedom, right? Right. If I want to drunk drive my lawnmower down Main Street as the mayor of this town, then I have the legal constitutional right to do so. So this next one comes from user choir leader. Choir leader. I don't live in a small town, but my small bit of the city were amused today. A woman posted in the local neighborhood Facebook group to say that a woman had knocked on her door at 6:25 a.m. The reason was she had tracked her missing husband's phone to the address. He had not come back the night before. The man was not there, and the poster was a bit concerned. The poster of the Facebook poster. Just wanted to clarify that. This led to much chat about burglaries or whether she should post the Ring doorbell footage. A man then joined the thread to apologize. It was the missing man. He had got drunk at the football and ended up falling asleep in the house next door to the woman who posted on Facebook. Much hilarity. Man, so many of these stories about people getting drunk. See, I don't know. And I actually have a buddy, my friend Sam. One of his friends, he was telling me they were out drinking in a city, a larger city in Canada. I don't want to give any names or places because that is private information. But he was telling me that one of his friends just got so drunk and walked into some random person's house and like fell asleep on their stairs or something. I'm like, listen, I have had my fair share of overindulgence in alcoholic experiences, okay? I'm not going to lie. I think if you are somebody who partakes in such activities, I'm sure that experience is not foreign to your imagination. Or if you have friends that partake in the experience, I'm sure that doing things that you would not normally do is not out of the realm of possibility of things that you could imagine yourself doing. However, I have been and had my fair share of those experiences. Never have I fallen asleep somewhere in a place that is not my property or a place that I don't know where and wake up and be like, where the hell am I? I don't know how that happens. What are you doing? Like where are you going? I don't understand. Like, especially in somebody's house that you don't even know. Like what's your, even when you're that messed up, why would you like think to, like, I don't understand where the rational thought process is. I guess there is no rational thought process, but where the thought process is in like, I'm going to walk inside this house and crash. Like, what if this reminds me of Better Call Saul. If anyone who has seen that show or hasn't seen that show, basically in one of the first episodes, Saul Goodman, the main character, he's a lawyer and he's a kind of shady, sleazy lawyer. He hires these two skateboarders to fake an accident so that they can get money, and they'll all share the deal, and then Saul's going to get something out of it. And what ends up happening is that these skateboarders get hit by this old woman. They go to this old woman's house, and then her grandson is a member of the Mexican cartel and basically ties them up and wants to kill them. And I'm like, bro, imagine if you were so messed up that something like that happened to you. Like, what I'm saying, kids, is get messed up with your friends. Make sure they know where you're at. Always keep tabs on each other, man. That's why I always got Find My Friends on and stuff like that, because, man, if I'm in a situation, my friends need to know where I am or something like that, this is very important, man. That's very important. But yeah, I would be very interested to know if you guys have any stories like that. Okay, let's see what we've got going on here. Oh yeah, okay, these next two are actually pretty funny. So this one comes from Kelsey K09876. They just built a new Verizon in town, but someone started a rumor that it was going to be a Panera Bread. Someone went as far to mark it on Google Maps as Panera, even though the building is clearly a single store with with a Verizon signage. So then I get a reply. And this thread gets a reply from Grateful Girl 13. We currently have a similar situation. Town of 3,700. Old grocery store was leveled and a gas station was being built. Someone started a rumor that it was a Sonic. An announcement was made clarifying the new establishment is not Sonic. It's just a gas station / mini mart. The town Facebook group is livid. People are now attacking the town government for loss of Sonic, even though there was never going to be a Sonic. It must be the tater tots. There's also a pig that keeps getting loose and wandering down the state highway. The owner is convinced someone is letting it out and finding a way to avoid the trail cameras they set up. Oh man, isn't that just great? There's always rumors about restaurants coming to towns that just never happen. I remember, like in Moose Jaw, that city where I'm from, there was just constant rumors of like a Wendy's being built, and it just never happened. Or relocation of certain places that just never happens. And then it's always, you know what it is too? It's always the stores that you don't want that get built. Like they're building a brand new Canadian Tire. And Canadian Tire, for my American listeners, is a Canadian like Home Depot sort of store. I think I mentioned that on this podcast before, but it's like a hardware store and stuff like that. And they sell all sorts of things for home and auto and blah 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 blah. You get the idea. And they're building this giant new Canadian Tire at the front of the city, and it's like and it's like what? Like what? Why? I mean, it's always the stuff you don't want. It's always the stuff you don't want. And I've never had Sonic before, but it sounds good. There's so many American chain food places that we don't have here in Canada that I would love to try, or that I have tried. Shout out to Shake Shack and to In-N-Out because they're both fire. But I have so many other places that I would like to go, like Panera Bread. I've heard this place is great, and I've heard it mentioned in pop culture quite a lot, in American pop culture, but I've never had Panera Bread. I don't even know what Panera Bread is, to be honest with you guys. I don't really know at all, so I guess I'm going to have to do some research. Okay, guys, I actually had a couple more stories for you, but I think it's time to wrap it up for this podcast. It's 30 minutes of listening to me, of listening to my voice over a microphone and in your headphones or on a speaker, on your Amazon Alexa, whatever you choose to partake to listen to the podcast on. So, my fellow friends from the internet, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into the episode. I don't want to shade anybody, by the way, with the cats thing, okay? I'm really sorry. I don't want to insult anybody. I really don't. If you have that many cats, I'm sure you're a nice person. You might be a little bit weird, but I'm sure you're a great person, and I really appreciate you listening to the podcast, okay? And that's how I feel. That's how I feel inside, okay? That's how I truly, truly feel. So without further ado, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, I'm your host, Luke Dick, and before we head out of the podcast, if you're watching or listening on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts, make sure to leave us a rating, and also leave us a review. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Reddit Asks Us Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.